The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Walton Han, and I'm founder of Ring Marketing. Today, I'll be going over the truth about geofencing. And one of the main motivators for me to have a talk about geofencing is quite a bit of our funeral home clients. They've been exposed to geofencing. They've been getting quite a bit of cold calls about geofencing, and they've been inquiring from us, hey, what is geofencing? Can you guys do it? And should we do it? That's what I decided to go over this with you. And I did a lot of research. Again, geofencing is not new. So it's been out there for a long time. So that's why I really want to go over what is really geofencing, the pros and the cons, specifically for the film industry. Right? It might work well for other industries. Does it work well for the funeral industry? And this is very informal, by the way. So if any questions, feel free to just type into the question box and I'll answer your questions right away. So let's get started. So what is geofencing? So geofencing is a location-based mobile advertising. You can physically draw a digital fence around a specific location. And when a user enters in the fenced off area, for example, this radius over here, then they become eligible to receive certain advertisements. Right? So again, if you look at the drawing over here, let's say they're outside of the radius here or the fenced off area, but immediately once they walk into the fenced off area, then they're subject to getting advertisement from you. But once they leave, then they will not be seeing your ads. So let's talk about applications here. And these applications are pretty interesting. First of all, that's how most, if you're getting cold calls, typically whoever the sales rep will be telling you, hey, you get to fence off your competition. So that's why I lead in with the slide with the application here. So first of all, if it truly works, you can show ads to people who are currently at your competitor's location. Actually, give me one quick second here. I'm going to show you. There we go. Okay, let me do this here. Okay. So supposedly, if they're at your competitor's location, let's say it could be families and friends there for a service, or they have a scheduled appointment at the funeral home. So physically, you can fence off your competitor's location, and you could potentially interrupt their buying decision with a attractive offer, better pricing, or really focus on how you are different. So theoretically, you can take away cases from your competitors, right? Theoretically. And what's interesting here is if the families and friends are there for service, if they did interact with your ad, then once they leave, then you get to follow them around the internet. It's called retargeting. And now you can nurture and ultimately increase pre-needs because they just experienced their loved ones passing away. So this is a pretty interesting concept, is you get to fence off your competition and steal cases from them. But you can also fence off your own location as well. So if there's families and friends who are at your location for a service, same thing, you get to retarget them. Once they leave, right, your premise, now they get to see ads about pre-planning, and you can nurture them and then ultimately increase your pre-need sales. And I think what's probably a better way to use geofencing would be what I call complementary services. And you could potentially show ads to people who are at hospices, assisted living facilities, nursing homes, retirement communities, senior centers, right? So wherever the seniors are, you could actually fence off that area and show ads to them. And I more or less call this intent-based branding. You get to explain to ages kind of like 55 and plus about importance of pre-planning. Or to their younger kids, as long as they're visiting their parents at, for example, a nursing home, and maybe they're the one that ultimately will be making the decision for their parents. It still will be good, be on top of their mind that you should be the first funeral home they reach out for pre-planning or more for immediate needs services. Same thing is once they leave the premise, now you get to nurture them. And what's interesting here is also if some of the funeral homes do have lunch and learns, they have different events, or community outreach, they still go to different events. Then same thing is you can fence off the area as long as they're at that event, you can attract them to come by your booth or your physical location. So you get to message them, hey, come by booth number 21 and to learn more about pre-planning. Same thing, if they interacted with the ad, once they leave the premise, now you get to nurture them and increase pre-needs. So these four are typically going to be the application for geofencing. Again, you get to fence off your competition, your own location to increase your pre-needs to the friends and families who are there for the service, attending service, complementary services. So especially hospices, some of these a little bit closer to end-of-life facilities, and most likely they're now planning their funeral. Or even nursing homes, retirement communities, anything that's 55 and plus, it's great to start branding yourself. So that way, whenever you're thinking about pre-planning, they reach out to you first. So if you think about this, the main advantage here is I more or less consider this to be one of the better way to do branding, to really get your name out there. And if you think about billboards, for example, your traditional billboards, which by the way, it might work, right? But think about those people that's driving by the highway. Are those always going to be the right demographics? Probably not. So I more or less think about geofencing as a digital billboard. Literally now in front of a funeral home, your competition, in front of your competitor's funeral home, in front of the hospice, every time they walk by, now more or less they're seeing your ad, right? So it really it's more targeted than your traditional billboard. Okay, and ultimately, of course, it will help you increase at needs and pre-needs. So all these sound pretty good, right? Even when I'm going through these slides, it's like, that's actually pretty good promise here. But is this, in fact, really, can it live up to its expectation here? That's why I kind of want to educate you. There's a little myth behind geofencing. So most people think that magically, once you walk into the fenced off area, right? Magically, once you enter in, somehow, it's kind of like your cell phone has like Amber Alert, any kind of alerts. Most business owners thought that once their prospective clientele enters into the fenced off area, automatically there's a push notification that comes into your cell phone. That is not true. Think about how absurd this would be if you're, let's say, in a very, very densely populated area like Manhattan. Let's say you're walking down the street of Manhattan, there's a hot dog stand. Once you walk by the hot dog stand, you get a push notification. Hey, 2-for-1 deal for hot dogs. It's interruption, right? It's very annoying. Once you walk a few feet down the street, now there's a shoes store. Now you get another pin, right? Another pinning push notification to your cell phone. Again, it's like very, very interruption based. And that does not exist, by the way. That's what most business owners thought whenever they got pitched about geofencing. They thought, hey, we can fence off a hospice. So anytime somebody enters in, they'll get a push notification. That does not happen, by the way. Obviously, it's very, very regulated. But a better way to think about it is the push notification does exist only if, for example, let's think about Home Depot. Maybe you downloaded a Home Depot app on your phone. Now you got permission for Home Depot to market to you. So let's say once you walk into your neighborhood Home Depot, the GPS detects that you're at this Home Depot location. Then it will send you a push notification through the app to your phone. Then that's fine, because you got the permission that you want to be marketed by Home Depot. That is push notification. But there's no other technology out there that could push notification to you without your approval. Okay? So that's the biggest myth around geofencing. But let's talk a little bit more where do your ads appear then, if it's not push notification. So let me kind of go over the geofencing, the good and the bad and the good. And also there's another way, what's called geotargeting. And over here we call it hyper geotargeting. So geofencing here is, unfortunately, since it's not a push notification to your cell phone, now it is more or less you got to be on your phone and you got to be surfing the internet, right? Or if you happen to be at that, let's say the family member has to be at hospice and they happened to open up one of those free gaming apps, then the app will appear on the mobile app. Okay, and since this geofencing technology is a little bit of slightly on the shady side, that's why these ads, they do not appear on the major network at all. Facebook, Instagram, Google partners up with bazillions of websites out there. You will never see the ads appearing on those websites if you're using geofencing. So if you're doing geofencing right now, most likely your ads will only appear in very, very subpar websites that they cannot be on Google Display Network, or it's going to be on one of those gaming apps. Versus what we do here, or just in general how other people do it, is you can also do your ads on Facebook and Instagram, right? And you can also have your ads appear on CNN, Fox News, some of the major networks. So as long as they're inside, for example, at a nursing home, and they're on Facebook, now they get to see your message, your Facebook ad. Or let's say they're at the nursing home. Now they're on CNN. They're surfing the web. They're on CNN looking at the latest news. Now they will see one of your branding ad about pre-planning. Okay, So slightly different twist. It's just this, the hyper geotargeting way, you get to have your ads appear on the major network. This one you cannot, geofencing. And very interesting here is if you look at the geography, the reason geofencing is cannot be on these major networks is you can really, right, a little bit privacy reasons. That's why they cannot appear on these major networks. But you really can go down to just a few feet if you want to fence that off. Okay. But if you think about this, how about Facebook, Instagram, and Google Display Network? So Facebook and Instagram, even with Facebook, Instagram, you can also target down to a very, very small area. So I'll give it an application here. A few weeks ago, we were in Kansas City for the Tri-State Convention. I spoke there, and also I have a booth there. So I want to test it out on my own, right? Our own to see, hey, please come by to the class. And I talked about reputation management. So what I did is I ran a Facebook ad campaign with a small radius, and I layer in all these exclusions. So if I blow this up, now I can just fence off, even though Facebook doesn't call this fencing. Now I get a fence off just the Overland Park Convention Center. So we also can layer in the demographics targeting. With geofencing, you cannot target by demographics. But with Facebook or Google Display Network, I get to layer in only those that identify themselves as a funeral director. So my ads are super, super targeted. As long as they're in the Overland Park Convention Center, as long as they identify themselves as a funeral director, and if they're in Overland Park Convention Center, right by that is a hotel that most funeral directors stay at. Now, as long as they're on Facebook, they see my message. Come by our booth, come by my class to learn more about reputation management. So you can see you really do not need geofencing technology, right? This could be done through Facebook alone. With Google Display Network, unfortunately we cannot, the smallest we can get down to will be 1 mile radius. Unfortunately, we cannot, in the good old days, we get to, similar to Facebook, we get to exclude geographies like bioradius. Unfortunately, with Google Display Network these days, the smallest we can get down to is 1 mile. But still pretty good, right? As long as we draw a 1 mile radius from senior center, it's still pretty good, right? So again, if you compare geofencing versus hyper geotargeting, your ads will appear on the major network. You can fence off with Facebook, Instagram. Google Display Network, you can do a 1 mile radius. But ultimately, this is what's happening here is the visibility. With geofencing, your ads are appearing on very, very subpar network. So the visibility is very, very low. Versus hyper geotargeting, your ads are on these major network. Again, they got to be on Facebook. They got to be serving the internet. Then they will see your ad. There's, again, no push notifications that will happen on your website. But the biggest advantage I see here is now with Facebook, Google Display Network, you can layer in their age. Maybe you want to target the most likely the AARP crowd, those that's 55 and plus, that are, for example, at a nursing home. Then most likely they might be in interest of looking for pre-planning, or those that's 55 and plus at a church, for example, right? But also very interesting here is with geofencing, your ads will only appear on tablet and mobile devices. But with hybrid geotargeting, you can also show on laptops and desktops as well. And a very big difference here is the cost. That probably is going to be the biggest thing here. With geofencing, you're paying for eyeballs. Okay, so anytime somebody saw one of your ad on one of these gaming apps, that count as one impression. So all they care about is just eyeballs, whether you're in front of the right person or not, right? But they really do compare themselves a little more versus your traditional billboards, okay? So you're paying for the impression. But with, for example, Google Display Network, if they saw your ad, for example, on CNN, while they're in the fenced off area, you pay zero. It doesn't cost you anything because Google's display network is still pay per click ads. So you're only paying whenever people click on an ad. Once they click on the ad, most likely they now have a little more interest. Maybe they want to learn about pre-planning. Now they're on your website now. And once they leave, right, you're only getting charged for that click. If the other people saw your ad and didn't click on it, it doesn't cost you anything. That's perfect for branding, right? You really want to get your name out there, and that is great too. So overall, it's much more economical to be on these pay-per-click model versus CPM model. But even Facebook and Instagram, it's on CPM model. CPM is cost per thousand. And I'll show you a comparison. Actually, let's go over that now. So this is a major media cost per thousand. This M is a mil, but it's cost per thousand comparison. So just kind of give you again, this is just to kind of share with you the price difference amongst different platforms with different media sources. So if we look at TV advertisement, not a primetime TV spot, it's typically hovering around $8 to $18 CPM, cost per thousand. Okay, again, that's the eyeballs. Whether they interact with the ad or not, it doesn't matter. You're just paying for the eyeballs. And whenever you're on primetime TV, obviously it's gonna be much, much higher. If it's your local TV, cable TV, it's a little bit less, okay? But obviously still pretty expensive. If you look at radio, does radio work? It still works, right? Again, it's all these sources. I'm not saying they don't work. It's what I typically look at is this channel. The whole thing here is in this space, in this industry, these days, you gotta be doing omni-channel or multi-channel marketing. And does TV work? It might work, right? It just might a little more costly, but as long as you're making, if you're putting $1, you get right, $1.20 back. I will find as many channels as possible to grow my business. Even breaking even is still good. So this is what I'm always looking at is, are there multiple channels? Some will do better than the other ones. But if I can find multiple channels, just like my own investment, right? Maybe one stock will do better than the other ones, right? And then even my own portfolio, maybe it should be real estate, it should be dividend stocks, I don't know, right? All these different channels. As long as one channel is carving out, right, good returns, I'm still going to be investing in all multiple channels here. But if you look at radio, does it work? Yeah, it still works. Right? It's a little bit costly, but it still works. So why pause radio when still making you money? That's typically how I look at it. Online-wise, video ads are going to be a little more expensive than your typical mobile ads in Google Display Network. Okay, and this is your billboard. So I think a better reference for geofencing will be kind of going against your traditional billboards. Does billboard works? It still works, right? It's great branding, getting the name out there, but it typically ranges from $3 to $18, and you cannot change your ad on the fly, right? Obviously, the cost of production is very, very high. And just for fun, if you look at print, wow, it's getting very, very pricey now, right? Your local newspaper, now it's this high. They're charging about $32.50 for CPM, which is outrageously high. Does it work? Yeah, it might work, right? Again, it's more pricey versus some of these other methods. Again, for a large firm, they should still be doing multi-channel. And where hyper geotargeting comes in is another channel, right? For you to get in front of the right demographics while they are at those locations. So if you look at hyper geotargeting, it's coming down to less than $5, typically ranging from $2 to $4, $5 range. That's low on the totem pole over here. Okay. So let me kind of go over a few more things here. So the overall cost to do hyper geotargeting is going to be a lot less compared to even geofencing and other forms of traditional offline marketing. Again, I'm not saying one is better than the other one. Okay, as long as one is making a profit, I would do it. It's as a business owner, this is how I typically educate funeral directors: is this is just another channel for you to get in front of the right crowd. And also, as you get to build up a retargeting list, once they exit from your geofenced off area, now you get to nurture them, right? A lot of other things you cannot nurture them, slowly drip them different content about pre-planning, and this you can. At the same time, we can help you build out an email list. As long as they interact with your ad, they go on your landing page, now they get to request for maybe a pre-planning guide. Now they opt in your email list. Now you get to drip them with different content. Okay. So this webinar, I kind of want to just educate because I got so many requests or funeral home clients that reach out to us. Even some large associations, I'm not gonna name them. There are a few national-based funeral associations. We built very, very good friendship with them. Even then, reach out to us and say, hey, at these trade shows, we want to start doing geofencing. Because even our friends, these national-based associations, they're getting approached by geofencing companies, and just sounds too good to be true. That's why some of them on here are actually are national or association members here or board members. They're on this webinar as well. That's why I kind of want to educate them. The pros and cons. Does geofencing works? Yes, but you gotta be on the right network in front of the right crowd. And this easily, right? If you're doing Facebook ads already, you can do this yourself, right? You do not need a geofencing company to do this for you. If you know how to run Facebook ads, if you know how to run Google Display Network, you can easily do this yourself. You do not need a geofencing company here. Okay, so let's see here. So I think that's probably the main message I want to go across here. And just be a little bit aware whenever you're getting approached by geofencing companies. At least you're not a little bit aware of the promise of geofencing versus if you want to be the real networks, be in front of the right crowd, more exposure, then you got to be doing geotargeting, or over here we call it hyper geotargeting. I firmly believe it does work because now you're in front of the right crowd, especially the complementary services, hospices, assisted living facilities. Now you're getting in front of the right crowd. Okay, so this is my person, short and sweet, and this is mainly just to educate you what is geofencing. And I'm going to open up for, okay, there's a couple quick questions here. So the first question here is approximately how much is geofencing? Okay, so this person's wondering about geofencing versus hyper geotargeting or through these major networks. So the pricing varies based on different geofencing companies you go with. Typically, they're going to be also the same around the geotargeting, the hyper geotargeting CPM wise. But again, your ad will appear on subpar networks and free mobile apps. And basically, you cannot layer in demographics as well. So overall, even the CPM seems low relative, and that's all for sure. They're going to show you a slide that shows them they're much cheaper than most of the major networks out there. But what they do not tell you, again, is your ads will not appear on the major networks. Okay. Perfect. And one more question. What industries is geofencing best suited for? And I will say it works for the death care industry as well, right? As long as in the death care industry, right? As long as you're doing geo-targeting, not geofencing, right? You can still fence off an area. Let's say we can fence off a nursing home. We can fence off your competition, right? We can fence off, right? Maybe a hospital, right? So to me, it's for the death care industry, it still does work, and you do not need these geofencing companies. Even if you're using a agency who's running your Facebook ads right now, they can easily do this for you. I just want to save you guys money here. Okay. Coming from Jay is asking, I have been approached by a marketing agency from my funeral home for $1,000 per month for just geofencing placement. Is that a good price? I will probably say no. Because with Facebook targeting and GDN, Google Display Network, I think you probably only need to spend $300 to $400 at the most to be in front of the right crowd. You do not need a huge ad budget because you're not showing the ads to everybody. It's only as long as they're in a nursing home, they gotta be 55 and plus, then do they see your ads. So I think $1,000 is not a good price. Okay. Another question here is, can more than one person fence off the same facility? Yep, because these are virtual fences, right? I can fence off. Let's say I'm funeral home A, I can fence off a hospice. A funeral home B, a competitor can also fence off the area, right? That just means that if I'm doing hyper geo targeting, if I'm geofencing, using hyper geo targeting, my ad will appear more often because I'm showing my ads on Facebook, on Google's partners. That's going to be showing up more often versus somebody who actually just does geofencing. Okay. Can I prevent my competitors from geofencing my property? Unfortunately, no. I'm sorry for saying that. Unfortunately, not. And the only way might be just to fight back. And now you hyper geo target their area. So whenever their families and friends are at waiting for the service to start, most likely on Facebook, now they see your ad. Okay. Are the apps for geofencing placement good? Typically, they're pretty good. They can really fence off, very similar to this. Really, really draw a fence. Again, the only problem I have, I love the technology, by the way. I'm not opposed to geofencing. I love the philosophy behind geofencing. It's just they're not on the right network, and that's the whole problem. And they're charging me for just the impressions, the eyeballs. Right? That's the only issue I have with geofencing. So this webinar, I'm not trying to attack geofencing at all. It's just there's a better way to do it. And any of your media buyer, whoever is doing digital ads right, on Facebook for you, they can easily do this for you. Right? That's why it's got a lot of requests from the associations and my existing clients. They've been bombarded with geofencing companies. That's why I decided to do this webinar for you guys, just to let you know the truth. That's why the title is called "The Truth Behind Geofencing." Perfect. So I think those are all the main questions here. So hopefully I save you a grant here for coming to this webinar. So if any questions, as always, reach out to me. And the next webinar, most likely, not most likely, it'll be on July 24th. And also based on requests, I might do other webinars in between. So if there's anything that you're curious or any questions, reach out to me. I'm always looking for ideas to educate you guys. And we got a new book out. The book that you might have is probably a little more than 3 years old already. I just rewrote the book, added a few more content on there, more updated for 2019. So you don't have the latest edition yet, let me know. Happy to send a new one out to you. Okay, so this is not one of those long webinars. So one last question. Are your old webinars available? Yes, I will make sure they're all available on my website. It's fearhomeprofits.com, or just go on roomremarketing.com and we'll redirect you to Fear Home Profits. And I'll make sure all of the old webinars, we always have one webinar a month. I'll make sure they're on there as well. Awesome. Thank you guys. Short and sweet. I will see you on the next webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.